From Perth, Australia, and broadcasting around the world, you're listening to The O Show with your host, Oren McCory. The O Show is a no-nonsense podcast bringing you the best advice on training, mindset, and nutrition to supercharge your efforts in the gym, the kitchen, and most importantly, in your head. Don't forget to share this episode on your social media. Now, let's get to it.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to today's episode of The O Show. And today I am joined by my very good friend and business mentoring client, Liam Moulds. Liam, how are you today?
Doing really good. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot for having me on the podcast. Appreciate it.
We've been talking for a few weeks now about this. It's just getting the time to sit down and actually record it because you've got quite an interesting story, Liam, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But then obviously I've known you over the past year, and like you are an absolute animal when it comes to building your business and building the life that you want. So hopefully you guys can get a lot of inspiration from your background, where you were before you started coaching. And then in terms of just your drive and your tenacity to build this business, they can then, get some inspiration, whether they are in a career, whether they're running their own business, or whether they just want to take some of your energy and use it for their own fitness goals. So Liam, let's talk about you and your background. Okay. Like before you get into coaching, let's talk about your story and what you've been through.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So you summed it up pretty well. I would say very much where I am now. The key thing I like to highlight is I never was like that when I was younger. So this is very much new for me. I would say really probably in the last 2 years is sort of where I've started adopting this mindset and really started acting this way. In regards to my story, the main thing I guess everyone should know is I originally grew up from Gelton, which is about 5 hours north of Perth. It's a very small country town. Long story short, when I was 18, I moved to Perth for university. I was at Curtin Uni studying like Bachelor of Science. In the second or third month of doing that, I was actually diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is cancer in the lymph node. So as a result of that, I basically was pulled out of uni straight into hospital. I had a needle biopsy done, which is where they take some small cells actually out of the point where they think that was infected. And then I got a phone call one day saying that they were pretty sure that it was Hodgkin's lymphoma in the end. So that resulted in me being rushed almost into chemo. I think it was the following week. So I was in Gelton at the time on holidays, had the phone call, drove straight down to Perth, had a meeting with the cancer specialist. And then before I knew it, I had a 3-inch needle in my arm, getting cancer treatment done. So to sum all that up, it was about 6 months of treatment. So I did 3-hour-long course of chemo every week. So I was pretty lucky that it was only once a week. I know some people have actually got, multiple treatments per week as well. So I would do that. And then after about 4 months of that, I had radiation therapy. So strapped down onto a bed with, radioactive therapy being done on me. I got cured and was eventually in remission after about 6 months. And then by the time I was actually in remission, I gained over 20 kilos. So I came out of doing cancer treatment. I weighed 122 kilos and was probably at the most unfit level in my life, not just physically, but also mentally as well. From there, I basically was now in this position where I was in Perth, just recently cleared of cancer, no job, no degree, no education, nothing like that. I then took it upon myself to look for work because I very much didn't want to actually use my parents' money just to be able to survive and just mess around in Perth. So I started working at Hungry Jack's and I was doing that about 4 or 5 times a week. I live near Curtin, so it was about a 40-minute drive just to get to Hungry Jack's, where I'd do like something standard, like a 6 to 8 hour shift, drive back home, just rinse and repeat for probably about 6 months on end. After doing that, I guess I was very driven in terms of I wanted to make something of myself. I think through all that I went through, I really took it on the chin and really adopted this mindset that I was here and I survived for a greater purpose. So to me, that wasn't just to work at Hungry Jack's, that was just a stepping stone. So obviously, I didn't want to be living off my parents' money and I wanted to make something of myself. So I then went from Hungry Jack's, started working at a pharmacy. where I eventually was doing like 40 hours, something ridiculous at the pharmacy, just so I could now not just survive, but what I thought was thriving at the time, you know, saving a couple $100 a week, and just really trying to make a name of myself. It was about that time where I got into the gym heavily as well. So within 8 months of doing my own research, my own gym, my own nutrition, I managed to lose 42 kilos on total, and went from 122 down to 80. So I now basically put myself in my position by myself where I was able to get a steady job. I was able to transform my life in terms of physically, and my health as well. And then very, very soon after that, I ended up studying at Fit College to become a personal trainer.
Nice.
So yeah, so basically, I guess the biggest thing for me was, you know, after I did survive the cancer treatment, which was obviously a big scare at the time, I really sort of dug deep into it. I remember like looking in the mirror once when I was doing treatment. I was bald, I was fat, like overweight. And I basically just said into the mirror, like, as soon as I get cleared of this, as soon as I survive and, you know, I'm better, I'm going to do everything in my power that I can to turn my life around. Since then, I've adopted more of a business mindset as well. And, you know, I've got a lot more goals than what I had. Originally, my only goal was just to survive and to get fit and healthy, just because I was so close to losing that, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm sure we'll touch on very soon, but I've got a lot of other business drives and a lot of other things that I'm working towards now. It's no longer just about my health and fitness, but a lot more business side of things.
Yeah, man, that's a big transition, mate, and it's a lot to go through from such a young age. Like, I know people will have had it younger, but like, how does it feel like being 18 or whatever age you were, coming down to Perth for uni from Geraldton, and then suddenly getting hit where you have to be pulled out of uni to go undergo chemo? Like, what goes through your mind at that age, and how did you find yourself coping with that?
Yeah, I guess there was a lot going on really. When I was 18 at uni, like it was pretty much unheard of this happening to someone that you actually knew. Like, yeah, I knew cancer was a real thing. And I know people who are much older who have gone through similar shit. But at the time when you're at uni and you're just going out to clubs 5 days a week, sometimes like just purely fucking around, there was a lot going through my mind. I think the biggest worry I had was like, this is, you know, there's a chance I'm going to lose my life here and I haven't achieved this or that. Like, I'm still very early in the process. I think straight away, I think for me, it was always not a case of whether or not I was going to die for the sake of me, but I always like felt this tremendous feeling of how my family would deal with that and what would happen to them if I didn't make it through. So I guess straight away, my biggest worry was like, oh shit, now my family's gotta deal with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because before me, about 2 years prior, before I was diagnosed, my mum actually contracted this rare lung disease. So she had a double lung transplant. Wow. So long story short, to summarize a very lengthy story, she was on an oxygen tank, living in Perth by herself with my auntie looking after her. And she got so bad to the point where she was about 12. Luckily for her, we got the transplant done. And after that, they ran some tests and stuff, and they basically told us that she had 7 days left to live if she didn't have the transplant. Wow. So very, very fortunate, but as you can imagine, a lot of stress put on my family at the time, a lot of worrying. And then for it to be, you know, just shy of 2 years, and then I'm diagnosed with this, it's like just another thing that the family had to go through, right?
Yeah. And that's the type of things, though, mate, that build strong character. And it's clear that perhaps your mum going through that and you seeing her struggling, getting that diagnosis is what made you so mentally strong to say, like, well, hang on, I've been through this before with mum. I know how I felt. Now my family are going to have to feel like that if I pass, or if they're told there's a chance I might die, or if I get really serious and I give up. Because I think a lot of the times, you know, I'm not talking about disease. Obviously, diseases are different severities and everything, but if you had to give it up mentally, then you're more likely to have gone, because once you give up that fight, it's very easy. Like, think about people, mate, who like your grandparents age like 70s, 80s, one partner dies, then the other dies within a couple of months because they just like they're sort of giving up, right? Like it's a phenomenon. And if you had just given up at that, and part of it reminds me as well, I remember before the whole Lance Armstrong controversy, everyone looked up to him as this big, you know, all the work he done for cancer and everything. But I remember reading his book And he was talking about when he found out about it, and it just had this instant drive of, right, I'm gonna fucking beat this. Like, it's not going to get the better of me. That's what made him a champion in Tour de France. Take the drugs away, whatever. Like, everyone dopes in that. But let's not give Lance some shit on this podcast. But he still had that winning mentality. Like, take the drugs aside, he still had that mindset to overcome that. You don't just become a champion off the drugs, same way you don't just beat cancer off, you know, all fucking false hope and good wishes. Like, you've got to be that fighter and say, I'm gonna fucking get through it, mate. So kudos to you, and that's probably been built from what your mum went through, and it also has served you into your business now. But let's talk about then coming out of that. So you're 122 kilos, so you were roughly 20 kilos. So you were probably you probably would have been about 20 kilos overweight going into the treatment. Would that be right? If you've dropped 40 since then?
Yeah, 20, arguably 30, I would say. Something about that.
So you were a bit overweight then, but then obviously that probably pushed you towards the overweight / obese side with your BMI index. And you're just not happy. You've been through a lot, and you're obviously still going through it at the time, but you're just not happy with your body. So let's talk about like that, to still have the treatment going on and saying, no, first of all, I'm going to beat this. And when I do, this is the first thing on my bucket list. This is my big goal. This is what I've got to, this is one of the things I've got to live for, because I'm not going to die here sitting with a bald head, sitting depressed, not happy with my body. I'm going to build something better.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think, as you said, the mindset with everything was my biggest asset coming out of that. I think once, you've been put in that position where it's very, very close to you losing something that you've been taking for granted, in my case, for 18 years or so, right? I guess coming out of it, I owe a large point of debt to whoever I listened to, right? So at the time, I was very big on Gary Vee, which he's full on like motivation, discipline, happiness, all that. And I guess there was times where I just listened to that all day, man. Like when I was doing treatment, had no energy, couldn't do anything. So it was a mix between playing Call of Duty and listening to Gary Vee. Like that's how I got through. And I think just listening to that and talking more to like friends who would come over about it was really a big staple for me. But I guess adopting that mindset that, nothing's really holding me back except for myself. And then, switching on to, as you said, focusing on tackling, overcoming this, and then, ticking the bucket list off. As you said, I was always overweight when I was a kid. Ever since I was probably about 11, I'd been overweight. So, you deal with the typical things in school, bullying, body image stuff, all that. And I just remember thinking, fuck, am I really about to go out like this? Like I'm in no way, shape or form like the next level human being. Like I've still got so much more I'm capable of being. And part of it was just like, I wanted to do it for me. I wanted to feel great with how I looked. I wanted to feel great on a daily basis, which at the time after treatment, I couldn't probably tell you the last time I had felt great before. It would have been a very, very long time ago. So I guess that was my top priority, as well as it wasn't even so much as an aesthetic thing for me. It was a lot of like the health side of things. Like I really started thinking about just how awesome our bodies are for everything they do, functional wise, everything we're capable of, and then just really wanted to maximize that.
Yeah, man. And when you've been in that position as well, I bet you then appreciated things a lot more when you came out of that health situation. So let's think back. I know it's a bit of time ago, but what did you really appreciate coming out of that, chemotherapy stage where you've been in once a week, your body's been through the ringer, you've had the radiation therapy, and yes, your body wasn't where you want it to be, but just that clear diagnosis, it's gone, it's been worth it. Like, what did you start to appreciate more whenever you then suddenly had that lifted from you of, right, I'm a cancer patient now? Like, you probably appreciated stuff more is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, 100%. It sounds so cheesy, man, but it really was the little things for me, right? So when I was doing treatment, like part of the exercise or whatever was walking up and down the hospital corridor. And I do that maybe like 4 times. And by the end of it, man, I was ready to pass out. Like I had no energy, couldn't do anything. And at the time as well, like you've got a very low immunity. So I couldn't do anything. I was literally in the hospital or I was in my hotel room with mum. Like there was no in between. So I think coming out of that, the biggest things I would appreciate is just being able to do stuff without feeling extreme fatigue. Like we'd go for walks as a family. I know my family actually took me down south as like a little celebration thing afterwards. So just being able to experience everything that I'd been missing out on 6 months being in a hotel room, right? So, stuff like going to the beach, and for a while it actually felt like I had no worries at all, like no problems, no issues, anything. I just felt like, this was what living was, having that second chance, I guess. And yeah, I just really started to appreciate everything, my mental capacity, just how much energy I could put into things. Because I guess that was the more noticeable thing when I was actually going through treatment itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And then let's talk about coming out of that. You've dropped 42 kilos then by yourself. You're feeling pretty great and you sign up for Fit College, which at the time was a bit of a hobby, but you realize that, hang on, I've just done this all by myself. Let's see if I can impact other people by this. So when did you start thinking about doing Fit College? When did you start, and when did you sort of pass out as a coach then?
Yeah, I think what happened first was I had one of my good mates from Gelton actually message me after seeing my transformation, just saying he's like inspired and stuff, and then wanted to do some coaching with me, which at the time I wasn't really offering. I'd never really heard of an online coach at the time before, so it was very, very foreign. Long story short, I ended up taking him on under my wing at like a very discounted price compared to what I do now, and just helping him. And then I started seeing he was getting results. The feedback he was giving me was great. And I guess from that experience, I just adopted this passion for helping other people, especially when it came to like changing people's lives, right? And then from there, that led me to actually look into becoming a PT. So I think the very first thing I did was go on Google and was like, how do I become a personal trainer? And I saw Fit College's ad come up. So I guess good job to them for doing that. But there was one nearby, and I walked in there, had a chat, because at this time I was working 40-hour weeks at the pharmacy. So I was doing deliveries very much like I was doing like 8 to 8 sometimes, man, some crazy hours like that. So I was very big at the time of I don't want to sacrifice my work. Because I think if you were to study PT in person now, you have to be there for like 7 hours or 5 hours or something like that. So I just went there. I was like, look, I don't want to actually do in person because I've like got too much job stuff going on. So they said I could do it all online, which I was like, sweet. I immediately started just smashing out the course. Like I would spend hours every single night just going through it. My goal was to get it all done within 8 months. So the Cert 3 and 4. Unfortunately, I sort of fell off the bandwagon a bit during the Cert 4, but I was still doing online coaching at the time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I had gotten my qualifications done. I saw an ad for a job for Raw Fitness on Facebook, and that's how I actually applied. So I messaged the Raw Facebook team, and all of a sudden I had an interview booked with them at like 5 a.m. the next day. And I went there, rocked up, and yeah, that eventually led me to getting a job.
Nice, man. Nice. And that's whenever we actually met, because I'm not sure how long you followed me before that, but I remember you reached out to me May, June time last year when we were sort of coming out of that first 8 to 10 week lockdown. And you basically just asked me for, listen, I've got my first job. Like, how do I build a business? Like, what advice would you give somebody in this position? And I goes, mate, I'll give you one bit of free advice. Just be prepared to work all the time, show up every day, and talk to everyone. So how did that go then? Like going into that role, it's like you've done the let's just call them, I don't want to call them shit jobs because they're not shit jobs, but they weren't your passion. They weren't where you wanted to be. So you moved from Hungry Jacks to the pharmacy, which was probably a step up from where you wanted to be. It's a bit of a cushier job, but it still wasn't where you wanted to be. It's still a good job, but like you wanted to do something with the PT stuff. So then you ended up getting your dream job, and then you're in this. And how did that feel like going into that environment then?
Yeah. So there was a lot going on at the time. When I messaged you, I basically pulled the pin on the pharmacy. I told myself, like, if I'm gonna go for this, I need to go for this wholeheartedly, like 100%. Yeah. So I'm very big on I listen to a lot of mindset people now. So I was huge on Tony Robbins at the time. And what he says is like, if you're going to have a plan A, then you can't afford to have a plan B. Main reason being because it takes away all your energy from the plan A. So I just heard that once and I was like, fuck it, I'm adopting this right away. I basically pulled the pin, went straight into Raw. I was earning $0 per week at the time. I remember I've been following you for a little bit. So by the stage I actually messaged you, I had already seen like you're doing bits, very successful. So I just remember saying, fuck it, I'm going to message this guy, see what he has to say, and see if he has any advice to put me in the best situation, right? Because my mindset going into it, I was like, I need to be established ASAP. Like, I need to get into this position where I'm able to do this full time. I'm coming from the pharmacy where I get paid fortnightly there, and I think I was making like maybe $1,400, $1,300 a fortnight. So 700 a week or something, which at the time I thought was a lot of money. I was thinking, yeah, I'm saving $200 a week. Like, this is better than working at Hungry Jack's. So to pull the pin on that and what was a considerably safe job to go into Raw earning nothing, I guess my biggest fear was not doing well and not getting initial signups that I needed to pay, the bills, pay the rent. Because I was fully independent at that time, and I had been for about a year now in Perth. So I guess the biggest thing I was focused on was I need to match the income I was earning the pharmacy as a very bare minimum.
Yeah. And how long did that take you then to reach that, or what was your line?
So I think it took me I'll say it took me 2 weeks maximum to get to the stage where I had a steady income coming in. It wasn't that I was earning the same as I was at the pharmacy, but I was earning enough to be comfortable, right? I was paying rent, I had money on the side. And then I remember I messaged you and I said, all right, I've got this income coming in now. Whatever the cost is, let's do some mentoring, because I know we had talked about it before. So I said, whatever it is, I'll pay it, like, let's do it. And then, surely enough, we started working together, started putting a plan in place, and I started acting based on some advice you were giving me. And honestly, within the first 3 months, I was earning the same amount as the pharmacy as a minimum, and probably more. So it didn't take me very long at all. I guess, the drive that I had paired with the advice coming from you is just being prepared to work, which, I've always been a grinder ever since I'd gotten through the cancer thing. So when you said that, I was like, it's easy, man. So really went hard on it. I was working 12-hour shifts at Raw at some stages, just walking the floor, getting these signups, just telling myself, I've got this goal in sight. I need to hit it as soon as possible. So within 3 months, I was earning the same as the pharmacy, and within 4, I was earning well over that.
Yeah, nice, man. Nice. And it's great to see that progression. And I actually remember whenever you reached out to me about the mentor, or just before that, like, I think I just posted like a picture of me having a coffee with like one of the guys I was mentoring. You were like, holy shit, bro, you do mentoring? And then I was like, this guy's really king. Like, and then a few weeks later, obviously when you're in that better position, then it was like, right, okay, let's nail it, right? And we've done some pretty awesome things, man, for somebody in their first year of business. So let's not talk about, this isn't talking about me and my business coaching. Let's talk about you and what you've had to go through to get there. So what was the mindset shift from that guy who walked into Roar doing $0 per week to where you are now and where you earned your most money possible? Like, what have you had to go through mentally to get yourself in that position? Because like you said, it was a lot of pressure on you. You were like, I'm leaving this job, I'm pulling the pin, I'm not going to have a safety net there where I do this part-time for start. You're like, I'm going to go in, nail this, and then you went in hard. So what did you have to do to level up to get you to the stage where you're at now with your success?
Yeah, I think the very first thing I did was just consume content, right? So coming from Jolton, obviously, it's very small-minded there. Everyone has this same mindset on, what being wealthy is, what being successful is, and all that other stuff. So the very first thing I did was I really hound down on like millionaires, billionaires, what they were saying, how they acted, and basically what their mindsets were. Someone I really listen to a lot is Grant Cardone, and he talks about what being successful is, and basically this idea that being in the middle class is no longer something that is actually being successful. So I guess for me going into it, it sounds very rushed, but it was all happening at the same time. So I was earning $0 per week thinking, all right, I could be earning the same as the pharmacy, but even then, that's not enough for me to achieve my goals and to change my life. So I guess I had to get mentally strong, and I had to sort of become, I guess, financially educated as well at the same time. So I was thinking, after I had my first few signups, things were going well. I was loving the job and I was getting good feedback from clients. My next step was, okay, how can I turn this into a very successful business? I then adopted the mindset of, yes, I'd survived cancer, but now my whole mindset now was I've been through that. Now it's time to make something huge, something that no one in my family has ever done before. and something that's really going to transform not just my life, but, you know, everyone else in my circle's life as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And how much is having that driving factor of actually like breaking down your goal into what you want to earn, how much more that is than what maybe your mom, your dad, your uncles, your aunties, whatever those family members have earned previously, and then making that mental shift, like how much of an exercise was that, and did you struggle with that whole money mindset at the start?
Yeah, I think by the time I was at Raw, probably within the first month, you know, I was already working on this as well. At the start, it was hard for me, just like it would be for anyone, right? But I think just finding where I sat in the marketplace and knowing what to charge, how much my services were worth, and how much I thought was a lot of money at the time was very foreign to me, right? I'd come from a job paying like $20 an hour, where, you know, nowadays I'm charging people between 75 to $90 for a 45-minute session.
Yeah.
So at the time, it was very much like, you know, what is everything worth? What can I charge? What value do I see myself at? And then really hounding down on, you know, how much do I need to be earning per week to actually achieve my goals? You talked about, you know, setting these goals, these short-term goals to build up with how much I'm earning. Yeah, doing that dramatically changed how I saw money. It dramatically changed, I would say probably 10x how my business functioned as well. And then ever since, you know, as soon as I got the money side of things right, everything else just seemed to work as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, mate. And before we go any further talking about money and how we change our mindset, guys, if you're listening to this, this isn't like a brag about, you know, how much money we make or how much we earn per hour, because what we earn per hour is a reflection of the service that we give. People will not pay Liam $90 for a PT session or pay me my online rate if they do not see value in what we do and the impact that we can have on their lives. So for us as business owners, money, impact, and freedom are the key drivers for us to determine where we're at. Like you guys in your job, whatever it is, have KPIs in terms of customer seeing, amount of burgers you flip in an hour, how many Uber drives you drop off, you know, how many kids you impact if you're a teacher. You all have your key KPIs. Maybe if you're a teacher, how many people pass an exam. For us, a lot of times it's money, sessions, impact, how many clients we have. And people we only get to a certain level of success if we can help more people, because you can only sell shit once. Like people only buy a shit sandwich off you once before they realize they're not coming back, right? So we've got to build a business that is sustainable by getting people results, keeping people happy and retaining them long term because they're getting awesome results. So this isn't like a brag of, oh, we earn this amount per hour. This is a direct result on the impact we're having on people. So please don't think that this is just like we're stroking our egos and just seeing who has the biggest cock here in terms of how much money that we make. It's a case of this is also the amount of impact we have as a result. So Liam, let's talk about that. So you go in and you're not at $90 a session, right? We're probably going to push that up towards 100 as you get fully booked. But to go from where you initially started with to being able to charge that, like that's a big, say you started at 60, 50, 60, whatever you might have offered. You maybe done discounts very easily. And now you're going at 90 where that's your price. And if people want to jump on, that's your price. You don't discount it. You don't make exceptions. That's what your time is worth, because you can get a result. You're given so much value. So how did you go through that mindset shift to get you there?
Yeah, obviously it's a very big thing going from like $50 initially or whatever it was, as well as doing discounts for multiple sessions to getting to that. But the biggest thing was like, I wasn't just thinking, okay, how can I jump my service for just a session up to that price? Like a lot of my thoughts actually came from a place of, how can I include more value for my clients?
Yeah.
How can I actually make the session justifiable to charge that much? As well as doing that, it was like, okay, if I'm going to charge premium rates, then I have to know my shit. I have to know everything that I'm doing, and I have to be confident that I can do this. Because I think the biggest thing was like, yeah, in theory, you can say, yeah, my sessions are $90, but selling a session and actually continuing that and having that recurring is very, very different to just theoretically putting it out there.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was the value side of things, but also I invested thousands of dollars into my education with nutrition and just basically how to actually get people results. And that's not even including the Fit College signups. Like I think now I had totaled it, and it's about 13,000 out of pocket is what I've spent on doing academies, doing mentoring, doing like everything that I can do just to try and hound and make sure that I'm at the top of my game. Because for me, in order to charge people $90 a session, then I have to be doing something to actually get them results, right? I'm very big on not ripping people off, but I'm very big on knowing what I'm worth and knowing how much I can charge because I've done the work prior.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that in itself takes a lot of mental growth, which is kind of where I was getting at. So you went there perfectly, mate. Like, to be able to charge 60 instead of 50, you need to turn down 50 first. If somebody comes to you and says, bro, I'll pay you $50 for a session, and you know your service is worth 60, 70, you've got to turn down that $50 and not do that discounted rate, because you know that you're actually worth 60 or 70. And then eventually you get somebody who pays a $60, then you justify that your price was worth it, right? And the only way to get from 50 to 90 is to turn down all the bits in between, right? You then go from 50 to 60, 60 to 70. And like you say, you level up the service and make sure the clients are remaining happy as they go up through it, right? And it's also not like where you instantly go, like your clients who are maybe paying you less at the start are probably still paying you quite similar rates. You don't jump them from where they were paying 50 right up to your new rate of 90. It's like you keep everyone sweet on what they were on, and then you gradually increase over time, rather than being like, oh, my new rates are now double what you're paying, like pay me or piss off. Like it's not like who we are as people. It's not valued in the service. So yeah, I mean, that's massive. So let's talk about the service now. Like, we have since launched online coaching. This is where I came in. I can remember you were like, bro, I need to talk to you about something. There's something missing. I want to do this. And I remember sitting at my back, it was, I don't know, maybe end of last year, coming in the summer, and we just hashed out an idea to get you some online clients. And since then it's grown. So first of all, who do you work with as your main target, Liam?
Yeah, so my main target is fat loss, basically. So I like to say I work with Gen Pop, but not just Gen Pop. So I only work with people who are highly motivated, who are willing to make an investment in themselves and their lives, right? So to me, arguably, yes, it is a lot of money, but ultimately I choose to see it as an investment to get you from point A to point B. Like, if this is going to make your life better, then anyone who doesn't see it that way and, struggles to, I guess, agree to the price, I'm not really interested in working with them. The point where I'm at now is I'm basically fully booked. I'm at capacity with sessions in person. So if someone was to do an in-person session with me, they'd have to really fit that criteria. So Gen Pop clients who want to lose body fat, who are very, very motivated in doing so.
Yeah, fair enough, man. And let's talk about some numbers, because then there's loads of PTs will listen to this. Some of my best listened to ones are all about business and strategies and everything else. So where are we at now, or where's the business grown to from where you started, battling cancer, starting from scratch less than a year ago, to where you are now?
Yeah, so it seems like kind of crazy when you word it like that, but basically in person, I'm sitting on roughly 32 sessions per week. So that's 45-minute sessions. But I'm very fortunate to say when I started at Raw, I was working whatever hours I could. I was doing 2 trips home and back. Now, if you work with me, you have to meet my time of between 5:30 a.m. and 12. So quite literally, I only work those hours. I'm working Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the moment. So I've got 2 days off that I don't step foot into the gym, 32 sessions in person. And I've also got 6, which are designated onliners. So a lot of my in-person clients are also part of my online team. It's just a part of like a higher service that I offer. Yeah. But I've got 6 people who are all across the state who are just solely online. So altogether, I'm working with just over, I think it's 25 clients the last time I checked.
Yeah, nice, man. Nice. And that's came a long way from the guy who walked in there with no confidence. Was like, shit, how do I grow this business in this, big, well-established gym? You're probably going back in after COVID, where trainers have had that, 6 to 10 weeks. I can't remember how long lockdown was, but the trainers in there who are established have had that break, and they're all chomping at the bit to get back in, get impact and grow in their business again. And then you come in as a new trainer, and then now you're sitting as pretty much fully booked, where you can be a bit selective with things. You're growing the online slowly, and everything's just in a good spot. So where have we went to in terms of income? Like, going from zero to what was your peak to date? What's the most you've been earning per week or per month, whatever way you want to word it?
Yeah, so for me,
it's just to show how much you've grown.
Yeah, so I guess as we mentioned, going from Hungry Jack's probably earning, that was like 500 a week, to the pharmacy, which was a cool 700 a week. Nowadays, my highest that I'm pulling in weekly is 3,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, quite literally, it seems like, I know a lot of people will be like, oh, why do you only have 32 sessions or 25 clients? Which it doesn't seem like a whole lot, considerably. Like, there are trainers out there who have a lot more. But the thing is, my clients and my sessions, that high quality. So I've got clients who are paying me, that premium service amount, but that's purely because I only offer services that are going to fit with who I am and that are going to fit my lifestyle. And the reason why I only work from 5:30 to 12, which may seem like leaving money on the table to a lot of people, but that's just because I've got this idea in my head of what my lifestyle looks like, and I'm not really willing to sacrifice that for anything.
Yeah, and that's something that we always talk about, right? Because you're very driven, and every 2 weeks we meet up to talk about growing the business and what we can do moving forward. And you're like, oh, I just feel like I could push more people into my gaps, and I'm like, bro, does it fit in though? Like, do you want to do that, or would you rather have an hour chill time where you can do something else to grow the business and the systems and the service you're giving clients normally, right? So like, I'm very much pushing you towards this idea of your perfect day and laying out, like, finishing when you want to finish, have your training done, so you've got time to either have time with the family, the missus, your flatmates or whatever, have time for you, have time for hobbies, have time for, go out and grab a coffee somewhere because you just want to chill, go to the beach, whatever it is that you're actually into. Like, you've got to make everything fit around you. And yes, if somebody wants to be a trainer doing 40, 50 sessions a week, that's absolutely great. But you've got to be seeing the return for that in terms of the amount of effort you're putting in terms of the money, in my opinion. I think if you're doing 40 sessions a week working for somebody else, you're putting a lot out for not a lot in return. But you've got that 30 sessions. It's all you. It's all on your time. It's all, you value your clients value you. You've got all this time to continue to grow the business because you're turning down those sessions, which seems like you're turning down money to some people, but you're actually building the lifestyle that you want to build. And you're making sure that you've got time to serve those 20, 30 clients that you've got, right? That they can then get what they need from you. If they need something done, you've got time in the day to go and change a diet plan or do something or jump on a Zoom call with them. Like, you've engineered a business that works around you, but also works around your clients, because service is at the forefront of all this, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And I think, the real highlight there is the quality of service. So I've got a client, for example, this just happened today, but I've got a client who's paying me $400 a week just for her, right? And then the biggest thing is she rocked up to our session today with one of those massive hoodies. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but it's like a massive blanket jumper thing.
Oh yeah.
So in my mind, I was like, holy shit! Like this lady who, like, I love training her. She's one of my favorite clients to train. For her to be paying me $400 a week, I'm like, fuck, that's a lot of money from one person. But for her to bring me gifts that fucking cost her extra money just because of like how well we get along, and obviously she sees the value, like, that's insane to me, right?
Yeah, man, 100%. And like, it's not to say that every client has to start giving us all gifts, but it's just like that little it's just a little sweetener to show that we're doing a good job, right? And even if it's just a nice text message, that's all that we really need to show that the service is above and beyond. And for that girl pays you, was it 400 a week then? Like, yeah. To still be like, Liam's doing such a good job of me, I love this guy, I'm gonna buy him this fucking gift. That's pretty amazing, man. So, and it shows like where you came from. You came from nowhere to now, you do the math, that's going to be a 6-figure business by the end of this tax year. That's pretty fucking impressive. And that's a testament to you and your mentality. And let's give a shout out, mate, because I know that you've got a videographer who's one of your best mates who you work with on bringing such awesome content. And guys, if you don't follow Liam, he's going to shout out his Instagram name in a couple of minutes when we finish here. But if he goes, just go and look. This is the reason why I took him on as a mentoring client. I actually looked at his profile and I was like, right, what's this guy like? Is he just fucking coasting along? Like, does he really want mentoring? And his Instagram is fucking professional. Like, he has killer graphics, killer content. He's always posting. He's always delivering value to people. Like, before long, by the time he's 25, 30, he's going to be one of the biggest trainers in Perth. I have no fucking doubt about that. And you will see the quality when you go and watch his Instagram. So, yeah, go and check that out. But let's give a shout out to your video guy and everything else. He deserves a little bit of love, right?
Yeah, that's it. He's one of the main reasons of why I am where I am today. So his Instagram is at Jaden's World. That's JDNSWRLD. Yeah, my man Jaden, he's been my best mate for about 8 years now. I met him in Gelton, which is crazy enough, and now we actually live together. So it's coming on about 50 weeks of us working together and pumping out content. And at the time that I had messaged you, arguably looking back at it now, I would say my content is shit compared to where it is. Like, the level that we've both grown together is insane. And, I'll say it just as much as he probably would too, but he's been, a very pivotal driving factor to my business. And without his help and without his help for everything, I wouldn't be where I am. And, it goes without saying, if anyone listening to this needs some professional videography work done, then hit him up. I know he's pretty busy at the moment. Like, every time I speak to him, he's under the pump. He's full with people, which is a very good sign. But if you are looking for that high quality, he's easily going to be the best videographer in Perth within the next 10 years.
Nice, man. Nice. And that's good to see, man. And then you're going to have shares in his company now, right? Since you started the dream.
Oh, that's it, man. That's it. It was one of those funny things, but we both grown together, from day one. But looking back under a year ago, we were both sitting there, not much money at all. And we were thinking about investing in his first camera. So this camera was $4,000. Like, we weren't earning anywhere near that at the time. But, from what I've been listening to through everything I was about, I sort of persuaded him into, like, we need to make this fucking jump, because no one around us is making these sacrifices and taking these big risks. Like, $4,000 was a lot of money at the time. But long story short, I ended up being able to convince him, and we made that $4,000 investment. And then ever since then, we've never looked back, and our lives have never been the same since then.
Yeah, man, that's massive. That's massive. And let's finish, mate, because we've been talking for nearly an hour now. But what would you say to somebody who's in your shoes, whether they're a new PT or there's somebody who's an existing PT in a gym, but just fucking struggling to grow? Like, what's the mindset, the marketing, the lifestyle tips, whatever your top 3 tips are for somebody to grow from where you were last year to at $0 per week coming in, new gym, new environment, to now being that 6-figure business?
Yeah, okay. So I think the very first thing I would always say to people is, like, if I can do it, someone who's come from Gelton, fucking being 122 kilos overweight, surviving cancer, if I can go from all that and, build this successful business for myself and build this lifestyle, then literally anyone is capable of doing that. There's a lot of you who are probably listening to this who are in better circumstances than what I was. So you really have no excuse at the end of the day, and it all comes down to how much you're willing to work. The biggest tip I can give people is you need to invest in yourself. A lot of people are so scared of spending money, but the reality is the only reason why I'm earning this $3,000 a week, $12,000 a month is because I've spent big numbers in building my foundations, but also building who I am as a person. A lot of people will talk about being afraid to make dumb purchases, but at the end of the day, if you're not feeling like you're the best of the best, then there's no way you perform like it as well. So I guess tip number 1 would be to realize that anyone is capable of doing it. And no matter where you are, you're in control of what happens with your life. Tip number 2 is invest in yourself. Don't fucking go investing all your money into stocks and shit if you've got none. Actually invest into a business and build something of yourself. And then the third tip would be just to consume as much content as you can. I would literally just sit down for hours on end, just taking in motivation, taking in mindset cues from people like Gary Vee. And ultimately, that's what paved this mindset to success for me.
Yeah, man, that's massive. And that's 3 big tips. So, let's finish it on that, because it's not going to get more of an impact than that. Hopefully, everyone has been inspired by your journey. I personally may take a lot of inspiration from you in terms of your battle with cancer to get the mindset to where it is now. And sometimes I even forget you've had cancer and been through so much whenever we catch up every 2 weeks, because it's just not part of who you are now. It hasn't held you back. If anything, it's just driven you. So whether people are in the PT industry, whether they're not, hopefully people have got a lot of inspiration from this. But let's shout out, how can people follow you? How can they get in touch just to say that they've enjoyed the episode or want to talk to you more about coaching or potentially mentoring to get somebody here as well, right? Because it's not just you that does it, but you might be doing it soon too at this rate.
Yeah, 100%. So if you guys want to check me out, I've got YouTube, which is just Liam Moulds Fitness, and my Instagram, which is the main one for all my business. That's just @liam.moulds.
Yep, nice. So, and guys, if you're struggling to find it for whatever reason, just type Liam into my followers or following. We both follow each other. So, yeah, and just check out his content, because like I said, it's sick, and it's always leveling up, mate. So I'm always excited to see the next evolution. So, mate, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Guys, if you've enjoyed this, please tag me, please tag Liam. Let us know what you thought, because we don't always do business, but this type of stuff is business and mindset combined, and it's massive. So really, really looking forward to seeing the feedback on this, guys. If you haven't hit a 5-star review, now is your time to do it, because then 5-star reviews, more people see it, more guests see how quality the podcast is, so I can get more superstars on, and we can keep growing the podcast going into season 2. And look out, because we are going to be hitting our 1-year anniversary in 10 days time, and I'm going to have another crazy amount of content dropping before then. I really want to get to that 52 episode mark by then, which will average at 1 a week. So that'll be a big goal ticked off for me, establishing ourselves as the biggest podcast in Perth in the fitness scene. And I can't wait to keep pumping this out for you guys. So please leave the review. Please, if you enjoyed this, tag me, tag Liam, and let's give us some love on the podcast here, guys. But thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you next time. Thanks for being on, Liam. Speak to you soon, buddy.
Easy. Thanks, bro.
Thanks for listening to The O Show with your host, Oren McCory. If you liked this episode, then please subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening and share this on your social media. We'll see you on the next episode for more no-nonsense advice to help you supercharge your efforts in the gym, in the kitchen, and most importantly, in your head. See you then.